Right, good afternoon all, and apologies for the slight delay getting that live, having a few minor technical issues. But thank you for joining me today to listen to an overview and highlights of the Coral Expedition New Zealand cruise season, consisting of two really beautiful expedition itineraries. If you've got any questions throughout the presentation, then please feel free to pop these into the chat function on your computer, and I'll try and address these at the end of the presentation. My name is Will. I'm a member of the Coral Expeditions sales team. Joining me today, we're lucky to have Steve Cox. Steve is one of our long-serving expedition leaders and is heavily involved in the planning and delivery of our wide range of expedition cruise products, particularly New Zealand, which is great. And he's going to be providing his commentary on some of the main highlights across this expedition cruise series. And I'll introduce you to him shortly. Coral is Australia's pioneering expedition cruise operator, sailing for 40 years now. Our fleet of 3 specialised expedition ships and tenders take guests to some of the most beautiful yet undiscovered islands and coastal regions of the world. Our travellers are attracted by our relaxed small ship atmosphere and itineraries that larger ships just simply cannot replicate. And at a time when the cruise industry is moving to larger and less personal ships, we've limited the size of our vessels to maximise that expedition experience. Our cuisine is prepared small batch on board using quality local produce and wine, and we operate to high Australian standards of safety with Australian crew wherever we go. We were the first to offer interpretive programs reflective of the destinations we visit and to employ expedition leaders, guest lecturers, marine biologists, and scuba instructors. And it's a tradition that continues today. For those of you who have cruised with Coral previously, be that in the Kimberley, our range of domestic itineraries, or beyond into international waters, you're going to be more than aware of the style of expedition product we offer, both on board, but also whilst exploring the stunning destinations we visit. As mentioned, Coral have been in business now for 40 years, and for those 40 years, we've been taking small groups of like-minded explorers to remote destinations with expert guidance and that warm, relaxed Australian style of hospitality. And so what is the expedition experience? For those new to Coral, it's worth stating right away that if you're looking for that big ship experience with multiple bars and restaurants, nightclubs, casinos, white-jacketed waiters, then the Coral Expeditions product is probably not what you're looking for. Instead, we offer an informal, relaxed onboard experience with no dressing for dinner, no assigned seating, and no formal onboard entertainment outside our schedule of lectures and presentations from our guest lecturer and an expedition leader team, and obviously specific to the waters in which you cruise. The whole ethos of the company is to focus on the stunning destinations we visit rather than the ship itself, a very different prospect from some of the big ship cruise lines out there. We offer a minimum of 2 shore excursions daily, and we utilise our trademark and genuinely unique explorer tenders to ensure your time is maximised ashore with no waiting or queuing. And our shore excursions are also tailored to all, no matter the levels of fitness. And so we offer our guests anything from a strenuous walk or hike to a site of interest or viewpoint, through to a gentler beachcomb or exploration of the area. In suitable locations, we also offer the choice of staying aboard our explorer tenders to cruise through the bays, creeks, rivers, and coastlines and fjords on this trip for those not inclined to head ashore. The point being that we offer a range of excursion opportunities to fit all fitness requirements and specific areas of interest. And again, all shore excursions that are accompanied by our expert expedition team. We do not outsource to third parties, meaning we can guarantee the quality of the ashore expedition experience. Any Coral Expedition cruise offers, a relaxed and informal onboard environment, and we encourage, a full and open interaction between our guests and crew. Our open bridge policy allows regular interactions with the captain, and there's plenty of in and outdoor areas to relax and enjoy the stunning scenery drift by, usually, I must say, with a cheeky G&T or glass of wine in hand. The onboard guest experience is at its core built around, two main areas: the delicious culinary and wine experience, and the schedule of guest lectures and presentations from our onboard experts. The aim being that you can fully immerse yourselves in the flora, fauna, history, geology, and cultures of the places that we visit. So Coral Expeditions, as mentioned, was one of the first cruise operators to employ interpretive guides on our cruises. And each trip will include a mix of our full-time guest lecturers who join the expedition team and special guest lecturers who are chosen for specific local knowledge and expertise. Any of our cruises, not just here in New Zealand, but all our cruises are led by a dedicated expedition leader who will work closely with the captain to determine our daily program, ensuring that the best use is made of prevailing weather and tidal conditions. Your expert expedition leader will join all shore excursions and activities. They'll provide daily recaps and briefings, and they're always on hand to answer any questions that you may have. The expedition team use the ship's shallow draft, quick disembarkation capabilities, which I'll come on to later, our special tender equipment, such as the Explorer vessels and the Zodiacs, and our open deck spaces to take you up close and personal to the remote places that we visit. And so onto the ships. For our New Zealand season, we're going to be cruising aboard Coral Adventurer in December this year, and Coral Geographer in late 2024. These are our two newest vessels, launched in 2019 and 2021 respectively, and being sister ships are practically identical and designed to take you to the destinations that are simply inaccessible to larger vessels. The shallow draft and maneuverability make them highly versatile, and they're the perfect vessels to explore the remote coastlines and fjords of New Zealand. They boast ocean views from all public spaces, all with ensuite outside-facing staterooms, many with private balconies, and state-of-the-art tools for exploration, including the stated trademark Explorer tenders, Zodiacs, and onboard kayaks. And carrying only 120 passengers, across 60 cabins, they offer that intimate expeditions experience that larger ships simply cannot replicate. So now we move on to skipped ahead there, sorry. And so now we move on to probably the most important facet of a Coral Expedition cruise, our Explorer tenders. For those of you joining us today who have cruised with us previously, you'll be more than aware of what our Explorers offer. But they've been purpose designed and built by Coral to provide the perfect conduit between our ships and the remote regions that we visit, be that here in New Zealand, but on all our domestic and international itineraries. And it's something that no other cruise line, domestic or international, can offer. Our Explorers are really easy to board directly from the deck, and you'll see that in the top right-hand corner, with no steps or ladders to contend with before being lowered gently into the water. And they provide comfortable padded seating, a full audio system to assist our guides in sharing their expert commentary. A canopy overhead protects you from the sun, crucial when we sail in tropical waters, and probably more useful to keep some of the potential rain showers off down in southern New Zealand. And we've got a toilet on board for remote convenience. This might not sound like a big deal, but is crucial to avoid having to constantly head back to the mothership, and potentially avoids the need to find a suitable berth or have a quick dip in the ocean. In short, our Explorers are crucial in allowing us to deliver that true expedition product. They allow easy access not only to beach and harbour landings, but provide the perfect option for exploring the bays, fjords, rivers and coastlines throughout these two itineraries. They allow us to on and off board our entire ship's complement in under 15 minutes, which again means more time spent enjoying the areas that you've paid a considerable amount of money to experience. The Explorers, and we have two Explorers on each of our Coral Adventurer and Coral Geographer. They're equipped with two powerful engines can reach speeds of up to 20 knots, and they allow us to cover large distances in far more comfort than the Zodiacs or Tinnies utilised by other cruise lines. And for someone that's recently experienced the joys of Zodiac inflatables, there's absolutely no sun or weather protection. There's no back support. If you're going on a particularly long day trip excursion, you know, the Explorer tenders provide that level of comfort that you're not going to be seeing on said Zodiacs. That being said, it's important to note that Coral do offer the more traditional Zodiac inflatables on all our expedition cruise itineraries. And we found that using these in conjunction with the Explorer tenders allows us to provide our guests with that true expedition experience, and it's something that is offered by no other cruise line. And now we move on to the crux of this New Zealand presentation, and I'll hand over shortly to the man that has more New Zealand expedition cruise knowledge than anyone else I know, Steve Cox. Sorry. As mentioned, Steve is one of our long-serving expedition leaders, and currently heads up our New Zealand product team, basically. So he's the guy that has experienced our New Zealand trips. He was an expedition leader, I think, for longer than 10 years running our New Zealand trips. So his expertise is going to be incredibly useful to provide you some of the highlights of the two trips they're focusing on today. So good afternoon, Steve. Thank you very much for joining us today.
Thanks, Will. Yeah, as Will said, one of my roles is managing a few of the different places that we go to. One of those is New Zealand, and yeah, I did, I think, 10 or 11 seasons with our company, taking our ships and running the expeditions down there. So it is a place I'm familiar with. So yeah, I'm delighted to run through what's on offer for the Coral Geographer this season.
Thank you very much. Look, we're going to be focusing on two of our New Zealand expeditions today. Our 12-night voyage along New Zealand's east coast, Auckland to Milford Sound, departing December 23rd this year. And then next year, our South Island and Fiords itinerary, 12 nights, Bluff to Wellington, departing Christmas Eve next year, 2024. And barring which is this trip, and barring the North Island section of this year's East Coast Auckland to Milford Sound expedition, the trips are very, very similar, with the main difference being that next year's 2024 departure is in reverse order from Bluff to Wellington. And whilst this is going to be a relatively brief expedition overview, and I do try hard to stick to our allocated 45-minute timescales, our website obviously contains a wealth of information with detailed itineraries, maps, images, videos, and so feel free to peruse to your heart's content. And our Cairns-based reservation and service team are more than happy to answer any questions that you might have. And so over to you, Steve, and on to our first expedition highlight.
Okay, yeah, so obviously it's right around Christmas time, so it's that's right in the middle of New Zealand's beautiful summer. And for those of you who haven't been into that sort of upper the North Island area, it's very similar to Sydney kind of temperature and climate. Auckland is very warmish and subtropical during the summer, with quite high humidity, and the same down through Tauranga before it starts to cool down as you head southward through New Zealand. So we'll be leaving out of Auckland after boarding and travelling overnight, and then coming into Tauranga. It's a really beautiful place, famous for the Mount, which you can see there. And last year, some of the folks, after the morning excursion, went off and did the walk up there. It's not particularly difficult. It's on a beautiful walkway that's been constructed, and it gives you a view right over, as you can see, right over Tauranga area. In the morning, we'll be heading off first thing, probably 8:30. Heading away up to a place called Waimangu Valley, and that is a place that's kind of similar to Rotorua, but not quite the smell. But it has all these beautiful natural vents that Waimangu's been built around. It's owned by the local iwi, and we'll be having a cultural experience there as well. We would normally do that a bit further down the track, but it fell on Christmas Day, and the iwis on Christmas Day are having the day off, which is fair enough. It's Christmas Day, so the people at Waimangu have agreed as part of our visit there, which it's a really incredible scenery and experience there, that there'll be a cultural experience there as well with their local Māori group. You can head on to the next slide if you like there, Will. And there you go. It'll be all guided tours through there, or you can certainly walk. It's very easy to walk around if you want to do your own thing. But we'll have our guides who will walk us around, and there's also the opportunity. There's actually they have boats there that go out on the lake and take you right across the far side. So it's quite an incredible place to visit. This is Napier, which is the next day. We've got a couple of options in Napier. One of them is, I think, it's one we've been doing for the longest time in any of our New Zealand expeditions, and there's no other place on earth where you can get so close to this huge gannet colony. Basically, as you can see, only in New Zealand do you get a fence like that stopping you. You can get right up next to them, and it's an interesting smell for sure, but it is nature-wise, it's a really incredible experience. And the gannet safari guides, they're all experts, and they have these really fantastic four-wheel drive vehicles that take you up through the countryside. It's actually through private land that's owned by an American, and he has reinstalled all this amazing native bush all up through the land that he bought. He's got rid of all of the pests that were in there, reintroducing native birds. So he's doing really fantastic stuff. And at the end of that drive up through his land, you get up to the gannet safari. The other option is, if you're into your New Zealand wines, or wine in general, there's a tour that we've organised, and this is an exclusive just for coral expeditions. There'll be no members of the public there at all. And this is at an award-winning winery called Askerns, and they will put on food and wine, and they'll have their winemaker there to do some wine tastings of his wines, and he's won, I think, 3 major awards for his wines. It's a small family-run winery, but it's absolutely stunning place. And if you're interested in food and wine in Napier, then that'll be perfect for you. So there are our 2 options. Of course, you can do your own thing, which many guests do. You can just easily. We have a free transport bus from the ship into the town. It's a small city, really, not a town. It's a small city, and Napier is famous for its Art Deco buildings. Of course, it got flattened in a huge earthquake and was rebuilt in the Art Deco style. So many of the buildings are still there and still used. So it's a very easy city to walk around. Thanks, Will. After that, we've got an overnight and a day, and then coming late at night, excuse me, into beautiful Marlborough Sounds at the top of the South Island. The place that we focus on is a place called Ship's Cove, and it's, from a European point of view, it's famous because that's where James Cook visited the most times on any of his voyages, any of his 4 voyages. It was always his go-to place. If they needed food, needed water, needed fuel, that was his go-to place, because it always provided plenty of all of those. And it has a very interesting history with the local Māori there, and it's well documented what happened between Cook and the local Māori there. So at Ship's Cove, where we anchor, there's the opportunity to go ashore and see Department of Conservation New Zealand have put up some really amazing storyboards about Cook's visits. We can also visit an island very close by, which is a bird sanctuary. So we have a permit to visit there, and early in the morning, it's a fantastic place to go, and it's got a beautiful walking track up to a lookout, and you can also see plenty of birds, and our guides, our GLs with us and expedition team will be able to help you identify a lot of the bird species that are on there. So it's an island with no predators, and it's quite a privilege to be able to visit this island and see a lot of this native bird life that's been put back on the island, that a lot of species that nearly disappeared in New Zealand's history. New Zealand had no predators back in the day before Europeans turned up and brought in, you name it, they brought it in, and it decimated New Zealand's bird species, which spent most of their time on the ground because there were no predators and they didn't need to fly. So they actually ended up, through long periods of time, a lot of them losing the ability to fly long distances. And that's what happens, how things get adapted if you spend too much time lingering around, not doing anything, like sitting on your couch for too long instead of going outside. So that's the scenario that happened, but they brought a lot of these birds back in. We also had the opportunity to walk on a couple of tracks there, a section of track that's a Department of Conservation track, and we have a permit to walk over a section of that as well. There's great cruising around there, beautiful place that we can get in the Explorers and the Zodiacs and enjoy as well. Thanks, Will. Overnight, we'll move down to Kaikoura, a really stunning coastal township that's gone from quiet backwater to where, 20 years ago you could buy a piece of property there for $10,000, and now you need $1 million. So it's just it's such a popular place now. But for us, we anchor off in either of the bay, depending on the conditions. Here we go out with the local operators, the local iwi or Māori group that own and run the whale watch business, and we've been doing this for I think 12 years now, and they do, I think, one of the best whale watch journeys in the world. They're incredibly knowledgeable. Their boats are all spanking new. All the times I've been out, I've never not seen sperm whales. So that's a pretty good hit rate. Particularly, they're not looking at humpbacks. These are very secretive, if you like, enormous sperm whales, but they know exactly where they are. They put up a helicopter or a plane up in the air, and they can see where these huge big whales are coming up and blowing water, so they can get an eye on them, and then they can head out towards them, and they drop a sounder down so they can listen to what depth they're at. So it's already a fantastic experience. They have great graphics on the boat, great guides, and we'll do that in the morning. In the afternoon there, you've got a choice. You can join our guides and we'll take you over the top of the Akaroa Peninsula on that famous walkway. So it goes from where the ship side is, and then over the peninsula and finishing at what they call Seal Colony on the far side. And then we'll organise transport to pick the walkers up there and bring them into town, so you can enjoy a bit of time in the township and then back to the ship. If you want to just enjoy Akaroa Township, then we'll have a free shuttle running from the ship, well, not from the ship, but from the wharf, and that the shuttle will take you over the hill to the township, and you can enjoy a meal, go to a restaurant or a bar or coffee shops, or just do some shopping or just enjoy yourself. It's a really neat little township to enjoy. Thank you, Will. Okay, Akaroa, they call it the French township of New Zealand, with its French history there, and you still see that prevalent today. It's a beautiful run in on the ship into this volcanic area, and the township is absolutely beautiful little town. We've been going there for 13 years now, and what we offer here is a couple of different options. You can go out with the local black cat operators who are award-winning, and we've been working with them for 13 years that we've been visiting New Zealand, and they take us out in the morning, about 8:30 in the morning, and they'll take us out right out to where the Peninsula Waterway meets the ocean. And it's a stunning landscape, but also in particular what you're going to be seeing the second most rarest dolphin on Earth, and that is the Hector's dolphin. And they're tiny little things with little Mickey Mouse features, but absolutely amazing little animals to see. And again, all the times I've been out, I've never not seen them. They know exactly where they are, and they're the only company that has a permit to go up near them so that you can view these really incredible dolphins that you won't see anywhere else. Very, very rare dolphin. The other option is there's a really wonderful company there called Pahatu Penguins, and they are a not-for-profit business that is there to look after the largest blue penguin colony in New Zealand. In Australia, we used to call them fairy penguins, but you're not allowed to call them that anymore. They're little blue penguins. So in New Zealand, they're just blue penguins, and this is a really large colony, but they look after and make sure that all these penguins are okay and managing well. They work with the Department of Conservation, so you'll get the opportunity to learn about the blue penguins and see some of the little nests I've made for them. They also have some other, it was quite funny, first time I went, they've got pet sheep there. And that might sound weird, but they're almost like a pet dog. They're quite amazing. You think sheep can't come up and be friendly? Well, these little fellows can. And they had lots of bird life there and really knowledgeable guides who have a really deep passion for looking after the penguins of the area. So it was a great experience when I did it. And so it's something that we're continuing. That's one that's Department of Conservation New Zealand limits that to 45 people. And that is so that that's their level they set, so there's no stress on penguins. So we can't take any more than that on that excursion. That's just a government limit to look after the pengies. Okay, or you can just spend time in town. It's a beautiful little town just to relax and have lunch and take your own time. We need to leave there at about 3 o'clock in the afternoon because it's quite a long run down to Dunedin and a really long run in from the Dunedin heads into our port side at Dunedin. Thanks, Will. Okay, beautiful Dunedin. They call it the Scottish capital of New Zealand. And the reason for that was when a lot of the immigrants came to New Zealand, the Scots all scurried down to the coldest parts. They weren't interested in Auckland. They scurried on down to the South Island where it was similar to back home. And they set up camp there. So you'll see the famous Robbie Burns statue right in the middle of the town there. It's got a lot of Scottish history. So what we offer here is there is a longer day excursion out to the Dunedin, out to the peninsula, and that's a wildlife visit mostly. So you get out to see the giant albatross, so the largest albatross in the world. There's a big colony of them there out on the heads, the Tairoa heads, and you'll get to see hopefully yellow-eyed penguins and some of the other local wildlife that is along the coastline. We do it with a company that we've been working with for 12 or 13 seasons. We've worked with them, and these guys really know what they're doing. The other one we offer, same company, but they offer just a nice short city tour. So if you just want to get your head around Dunedin in a couple of hours in the morning, and then they can drop you off in the city if you like, if you don't want to go back to the ship, and then you can enjoy lunch in the town and just relax. So it just gives you a quick overview of Dunedin, but you also get free time in the town, where if you do that longer tour, you're not going to get time to visit the city, because we'll be away by about 4:30, heading down to Stewart Island. Thanks, Will. Okay, Stewart Island, or Rakuria is the proper name, and this is a picture of Golden Bay, and you can see the little wharf down on the bottom right-hand corner, and that's just one of the little local islands. Way off to the left of that island is a place called Ulva Island, and that'll be our visit in the morning, and that is a world famous bird reserve, and it's one of the places, whilst it's an important bird reserve, it's open to the public, so it's a huge risk for Department of Conservation to do this, because they have so many species on there, but they feel that's one of those places that's important, that you need to be able to go and visit to learn about New Zealand's bird species. There's even kiwi on there, and you might go, well, have you ever seen one? And the answer is yes, I've seen two. Well, two kiwis in 10 years, so on over. They pop them, mostly nocturnal, so it's very rare to see them during the day. Whereas on the mainland in the township of Oban, people that live there see them all the time in their backyard. So they've just adapted to living around communities. But on Ulva, they very much just sleep during the day in their burrow and pop out at night. But Ulva has got a great number of native New Zealand species that have been reintroduced on there. There's no predators at the moment. They've had the odd trouble with private boats bringing in rats and those sorts of things, but it's predator free at the minute. And we'll have a local lady called Ulva Goodwillie, and yes, she's named after Ulva Island. Her team will meet us there, and we'll split into groups, and we'll spend the morning going through Ulva Island along the beautiful tracks, and they'll point out all the birds, and they're all experts, these guys. They're also really good with the local plants and trees. So it's a really neat morning. In the afternoon, we'll actually head across. You can see where the Coral Discoverer is anchored there. We'll be anchored there with Coral Geographer, and there's a few options. We can take you ashore to the jetty and arrange a ride over the hill, and you can visit the town of Oban, or you can join the expedition team and do a hike. It takes about half an hour, 40 minutes over the hill along this beautiful track, and it comes out into the town. Or you can join the Explorer, and they can take you down to the Norwegian whaling station that was abandoned a long time ago, and do a cruise along the coastline. So plenty of options in the afternoon before we head away from Stewart Island and cross the bottom of New Zealand and up to Dusky Sound. Thank you, Will. Okay, if the weather's good, we often head out to Solander Island, which is, it's about sort of 5 hours steaming off the coast of Dusky. It has incredible populations of bird. We do not guarantee this, because you're out in the middle of the Southern Ocean. If the weather's not great, sea conditions aren't great, there's no point, as you can see how remote it is. But if you get a good day like this picture here, we definitely head out there, and it's quite a sight with all these birds that are living out on these remote islands. And Solander comes from one of Cook's naturalists on board, and when they went past this place, they were amazed at all the bird life, and they called it Solander. Thanks, Will. And then we head into beautiful Dusky Sound. I think it's my favourite place amongst the fjords. We've got a couple of great places to anchor. We have permits to visit beautiful Astronomer's Point, which is where Cook did a lot of celestial navigation and sightings. They actually cut down a whole bunch of trees, flattened everything off, and built an observatory there. And you can still visit that spot, and you can still see where that they had this camp. Loads and loads of seals, cute little baby seals as well. And we can take these zodiacs and the explorers to get right up close to these beautiful creatures, just sunning themselves on the rocks. We can do kayaking in the bays. And of course the scenery, well, scenery is incredible. So it's, for me, it's my favorite place, and we'll spend the whole day there and the night, and then the next morning we'll do a cruise right out, go right up through Dusky Sound, coming out down Acheron Sound, and then up to Doubtful Sound. Thanks, Will. And Doubtful Sound, big high mountains. If there's been rain, which, you know, there's a lot of rain in Fiordland, let's be honest, it often looks like this. And I quite like it when it's one of those misty, cloudy days. It just has that real fjord feel to it. And so it's just it's a morning on the big ship. It's the best place to view is on the outer decks, and the guys will just, the bridge will just take the ship really slowly through a place called the Gut, which is a narrow opening, and then in around Doubtful Sound, and then coming out Thompson Sound. It was called Doubtful Sound because he never went in there, because he could see that it just didn't look right, and he knew that if he didn't get the prevailing wind, he'd never get out. So he called it Doubtful Sound, and he actually did not take his ship in there because he knew the dangers, that he might get trapped in there for a long period of time. Thanks, Will. And your final day, that late afternoon, we'll steam up the coast, and then probably about 4 o'clock, past 4 in the afternoon, we'll hit Milford Sound. And of course, that's the big icon of Fiordland. And we'll take the big ship right in through the entrance and go right into Milford Sound. The captain will put his nose near the falls, Stirling Falls, and just get right up close to this incredible scenery. And we'll enjoy a couple of hours in there before the ship has to leave. Excuse me. Ships aren't allowed to stay overnight in Milford Sound. It's not permitted. So we have to head back out, and we anchor in a bay called Poison Bay, which is not far up the coast. And we just anchor there for the night. And then early in the morning, the captain will lift the anchor, and we'll come back around and come back into Milford Sound. And that'll finish the voyage in the morning at Milford Sound. The buses will arrive to transfer you back to Queenstown. And if you're going the other way, the buses will bring you from Queenstown into Milford. About 2 o'clock, you'll arrive aboard the ship, and then you're doing the exact opposite, including the Marlborough Sounds, and then you do that short crossing of Cook Strait, and you end up finishing the following morning in Wellington. So there you go. There's New Zealand in a nutshell for those 2 voyages. Thanks, Will.
Look, thank you very much, Steve. I appreciate you providing a bit of expertise on that one. We've had a few questions that have been popping in during the presentation, some of which I can handle, but there's some that definitely I think I will hand over to you. You touched on it already, and it's how long's a piece of string, but what weather can we expect at this time of year? And you know, is there any kind of suggested clothing basically that you would recommend?
Yeah, so New Zealand's like Melbourne, 4 seasons in a day sometimes. That time of the year, it is summer, and what I do know, and the experience of many years traveling there, is that sun, when it's out, will burn you red. So it's really important to cover up when that sun's out. It's a really hot sun. And not to be taken lightly. So I would always have long sleeve shirt on, sunblock, hat when the sun is out, because I've learned that it burns very quickly. When you get down to the South Island, it's obviously cooler. It's not humid like the top of the North Island, But again, that sun burns very hot when it's out, and you can, on a good summer's day, you can expect 28, 29, 30 degrees. But also, it can turn on you and have a wind from the south where it might be 10 degrees. So I think for me, I come prepared for summer, but for that bottom part of the South Island, I have a warm jumper, a warm jacket, I have a beanie, and I just have some waterproof long pants. That's what I have ready for Fiordland. And that way, if I want to go out in the Zodiacs or the tenders, I can dress warmly if I need to. Yeah.
Thank you. And another one for you, Steve. In Dusky, Doubtful and Milford, are there any kind of walking, hiking opportunities?
So very limited by law. In Dusky, we can visit, as I said, Astronomer's Point. It's a very, very easy boardwalk. At Doubtful Sound, there's no walking permitted, and there's no hiking tracks in Dusky either, other than Doubtful Sound. It's just not permitted. There are tracks there for serious hikers, and this is serious bushland. So Department of Conservation does not allow any ships to do any walking in those areas other than that permit at Astronomer's Point. At Stewart Island, we do have permits for walks, and we will certainly offer a walk in the afternoon for a day. We'll certainly offer them walks in that afternoon. Yeah.
All good. And then I've got a previous client of Coral who's cruised with us in the Kimberley, and she's just asking, are there any wet landings on this trip?
No, but I reserve the right to be wrong on that. You're on an expedition and anything can happen.
Good,
but for the most part, I can say no. And if there is, the expedition leader will warn you well ahead.
Excellent, thank you. And just a couple that I can handle that we get asked frequently is Wi-Fi connectivity on board. So about 6 to 12 months or so ago, Coral Expeditions spent a small fortune. Not that Elon Musk needs the money, but investing across our whole fleet with the Starlink Wi-Fi kind of satellite Wi-Fi connectivity. So having chatted with some of the crew members on board, apparently Wi-Fi is now better than our head office Wi-Fi up in Cairns. We have included our standard Wi-Fi package in the fare that you guys have already paid or potentially are thinking about paying. And unless you're one of those unlucky people that has, urgent work, Zoom calls, or want to, God forbid, stream and download Netflix movies, which you won't have the time for on either of these two trips, the standard Wi-Fi package is going to be more than, suitable to allow you to stay in contact with friends and family, which is, particularly important over this kind of festive Christmas period that we're going to be cruising in this year and next. Uploading, photos to social media, that type of thing. If you are one of these unlucky people that needs to stay in touch with work or like I say, God forbid, stream movies, you can certainly upgrade to our more premium Wi-Fi. That does come at an additional cost, but unless you need something specifically, amount of bandwidth, our standard included Wi-Fi package is going to be more than suitable to keep you connected throughout the trip. I always get asked, do we have any kind of laundry facilities on board? Absolutely, yes, we do. It does come at a small additional cost, but it means that you can pack a little bit lighter than potentially you would have otherwise. And I will segue as well into what I touched on earlier in the presentation, that for those of you who haven't travelled with us, we're very, informal, relaxed onboard experience. There's no dressing for dinner, so you don't have to pack those tuxedos or ball gowns, that type of thing. Obviously, if you'd like to, happy days. It's totally up to you. But yeah, just a very informal, onboard experience, whilst remaining, a very, very premium cruise experience. Coming on to, got a couple more. Can you take drones on board? The short answer is no. Okay, which is probably a good thing, having those, buzzing above your head and ruining the kind of tranquility. If you're someone out there that has a particular reason for using your drone, you can approach us on a case-by-case basis. Many national parks, if not all national parks in New Zealand, ban them outright. But it would be on a case-by-case basis. But the short answer is basically, yeah, look, no drone technology use on board. You'll have to rely on your existing cameras, and like I say, the spectacular kind of geography and scenery that you're going to see on both of these itineraries. You will be filling a lot of memory cards up anyway. I think we've touched on most of the others. I had a couple of people asking about the sea life, Steve, in terms of will we spot whales and dolphins and seals? I think you've touched on that briefly. Do you want to expand on that? Or?
Yes, you will. You'll see many pods of dolphins, particularly as you head along the South Island coast, and in down in Fiordland, there's great pods of bottlenose dolphin. The largest bottlenoses in the world are in Dusky, and you'll see a lot of the dusky dolphins there as well. And Kaikoura has huge populations of dolphin as well, and whales. Absolutely, transiting whales down the South Island. I don't think there's a voyage where we haven't seen whales, but it's nature, and you can't book them. So it's, but the bridge always keep their eye out, and they're the guys that see them mostly, and they'll let everybody know.
Excellent. Well, look, thank you very much, Steve. I think we'll wrap that up here. I've gone over my 45-minute window. Apologies for the minor technological issues which delayed the start of the presentation. As I mentioned earlier, it's a relatively brief overview. For those of you booked on either of this year's trip or in 2024, you're going to have a genuinely spectacular time. For those of you who are considering your options, we still have some limited availability for the December this year departure. But if you've got any questions at all, the Explore at Coral Expeditions email and the 1-800 number on the screen will take you right through to our sales and reservations and service department based up in Cairns. They'll be able to guide you through any kind of queries and questions you may have. Or likewise, feel free to reach out to your travel agent. We've been working with our trade partners for 40 years now, and we're more than happily we'll use them as a conduit to answer any questions you may have. So thank you once again, Steve. Thank you guys for joining us today. For any of you booked on the trips, you're going to have a fantastic Christmas away this year. Have a great time, and we'll see you soon. Cheers, guys.